Hello, and welcome back to Read With Me. I'm yours truly, Isabel. I'm one of the owners here at Billionairettes. Welcome to the channel. If you are new, welcome. We're so happy to have you here. We're reading 2 books a month here on this channel, one on personal freedom, one on financial freedom. And I'm taking over the financial freedom aspect this whole entire year. We've been reading 22 books. It's been amazing. Truly the best habit that has been created this year for me personally. It has highlighted all the things that I want to do. It has highlighted all the things that I want to get better on. It has highlighted all the things that I knew about myself, but now they're coming to the surface even more. And now I can actually address them in the way that is going to benefit me long term, not only in my business life, but also in my relationships, in my own self-worth, my own self-talk, my own confidence. It's been incredible. And I am happy to share with you guys this amazing book that we're reading. It's The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. As I mentioned it in the previous videos, I've actually read this, or I've actually listened to this book a couple times on Audible. And, reading it is a completely different game. I feel like when you are able to read a book that you've listened to audio and you understand the concept, you've grasped it, and now you're actually reading, taking the time to actually read, it's on parallel, the experience that you actually receive. So welcome. I'm happy that you're here, and we're going to get into chapter number 3, one of my favorite chapters of this book. It's called Habits. And that's why I wanted to open up this video with the number 1 habit that I've created this year, which is reading. And it's been incredible, especially if you have started a new habit this year and you've seen the positive results that come from it. It's like you become addicted. Like now I'm addicted to reading. I'm addicted to understanding and actually taking something and literally loving how a book feels in my hand, and traveling with books. It just makes all the sense in the world. It has helped me disconnect from my phone, which I think it's very important, which is awesome. Anywho, let's get into it, shall we? All right, chapter number 3, it's called Habits. A wise teacher was taking a stroll through the forest with the young people and stopped before a tiny tree. "Pull up the sapling," the teacher instructed his pupil, pointing to a sprout just coming up from the earth. The youngster pulled it up easily with his fingers. "And now pull up that one," said the teacher, indicating a more established sapling that had grown to about a knee high to the boy. With little effort, the lad yanked, and the tree came up, roots and all. "And now this one," said the teacher, nodding to a more well-developed evergreen that was as tall as the young pupil. With great effort, throwing all of his weight and strength into the task, using sticks and stones he found to pry up the stubborn roots, the boy finally got the tree loose. Now, the wise one said, "I'd like you to pull this one up." The young boy followed the teacher's gaze, which fell upon a mighty oak so tall the boy could scarcely see the top. Knowing the great struggle he just had pulling up the smaller tree, he simply told the teacher, "I'm sorry, but I can't." The teacher says, "My son, you have just demonstrated the power that habits will have over your life. The older they are, the bigger they get, the deeper the roots grow, and the harder they are to uproot. Some get so big with roots so deep, you might hesitate to even try." Creatures of habit. Aristotle wrote, "We are what we repeatedly do." So simple, so true. Merriam-Webster defines habit this way: it's an acquired mode of behavior that has become nearly or completely involuntary. There's a story about a man riding a horse, galloping quickly, and it appears that he's going somewhere very important. A man standing alongside the road shouts, "Hey, where are you going?" And then the rider replies, "I don't know. Ask the horse." This is the story of what most people's lives look like. They're riding the horse of their habits with no idea where they're heading. It's time to take control of the reins and move your life in the direction of where you really want to go. If you've been living on autopilot and allowing your habits to run you, I want you to understand why. And I want you to let yourself off the hook. And after all, you're in good company. Psychological studies reveal that 95% of everything we feel, think, do, and achieve is a result of a learned habit. We're born with instincts, of course, but no habits at all. We develop them over time. Beginning in childhood, we learned a series of conditional responses that led us to react automatically, as in, without thinking, in most situations. In your day-to-day life, living automatically has a definite positive. So if you had to consciously think about every step of every ordinary task, making breakfast, driving the kids to school, getting to work, and so on, your life would grind to a halt. You probably brush your teeth twice a day on autopilot. There's no psychological debate. You're just doing it. You strap on your seatbelt the minute that your butt hits the seat. No second thoughts. Our habits and routines allow us to use minimal conscious energy for everyday tasks. They help us keep us sane and enable us to handle the most situations reasonably well. And because we don't have to think about the mundane, we can focus our mental energy on more creative, enriching thoughts. Habits can be helpful. And as long as they're good habits, we're in the clear. If you eat healthfully, you've likely built healthy habits around your food you buy and what you order at restaurants. If you're fit, it's probably because you work out regularly. If you're successful in a sales job, it's probably because your habits of mental preparation and positive self-talk enable you to stay optimistic in the face of rejection. And I've met and worked with many great achievers, CEOs and superstars, and I can tell you that they all share one common trait. They all have good habits. That's not to say they don't have bad habits, they do, but not many. A daily routine built on good habits is the difference that separates the most successful amongst us from everyone else. A daily routine built on good habits is the difference that separates the most successful among everyone else. And doesn't that make so much sense? From what we've already discussed, successful people aren't necessarily more intelligent and more talented than anyone else, but their habits take them in the direction of becoming more informed, more knowledgeable, and more competent, better skilled, and better prepared. My dad used Larry Bird as an example to teach me about habits when I was a kid. Larry, legend, is known as one of the greatest professional basketball players, but he wasn't known for being the most athletically talented player. Nobody would have described Larry as graceful on the basketball court. Yet despite his limited natural athletic ability, he led the Boston Celtics to 3 world championships and remains one of the best players of all time. How did he do it? It was Larry's habits, his relentless dedication to practice and improve his game. Bird was one of the most consistent free throw shooters in the history of the NBA. Growing up, his habit was to practice 500 free throw shots every morning before school. With that kind of discipline, Larry made the most of his God-given talents and kicked the butts of some of the most gifted players on the court. Like Larry Bird, you can condition your automatic and unconscious responses to be those of a developed champion. This chapter is about choosing to make up for what you lack in innate ability with discipline, hard work, and good habits. It's about becoming a creature of champion habits. With enough practice and repetition, any behavior, good or bad, becomes automatic over time. That means that even though we develop most of our habits unconsciously by modeling our parents, responding to environmental or cultural associations, or creating coping mechanisms, we can consciously decide to change them. Let me repeat that. We can consciously decide to change them. It stands to reason that since you learned every habit you have, you can also unlearn the ones that aren't serving you well. Ready? Here it goes. Start by thinking your way out of the instant gratification trap. This is number one. We understand that scarfing Pop-Tarts won't slenderize our waistlines. We realize that logging 3 hours a night, watching Netflix, or scrolling on social media leaves us with 3 fewer hours to read a good book or listen to a terrific audio program. We get that merely purchasing a great pair of running shoes doesn't make us marathon ready. We're a rational species. We are rational species. At least that's what we tell ourselves. So why are we irrationally enslaved by so many bad habits? It's because our need for immediate gratification can turn us into the most reactive, non-thinking animals around. What a line, right? What a line. If you took a bite of a Big Mac and immediately fell to the ground, clutching your chest from a heart attack, you might not go back for the second bite. If you took a puff of a cigarette instantly and mutated your face into a weathered 85-year-old, chances are you'd pass on that too. If you failed to make the 10th call that day and were immediately fired and bankrupted, suddenly picking up the phone would be a no-brainer. And if that kind of forkful of cake instantly put 50 pounds on your frame, saying no thank you to dessert would be the true piece of cake. The problem is that the payoff or instant gratification derived from bad habits often far outweigh what's going on in your rational mind concerning long-term consequences. Indulging in our bad habits doesn't seem to have any negative effects at all in the moment. So if you don't have the heart attack, your face doesn't shrivel up, you're not standing in the unemployment line, and your thighs aren't thunderous, but that doesn't mean you haven't activated the compound effect. It's time to wake up and realize that the habits you indulge could be compounding in your life into repeated disasters. The slightest adjustment to the daily routines can dramatically alter the outcome in your life again. I'm not talking about the quantum leaps of change or complete overhaul of your personality, character, and life. Super small, seemingly inconsequential adjustments can and will revolutionize everything. The best illustration I can give you is to emphasize these small adjustments is that a plane traveling from Los Angeles to New York City. If the nose of the plane is pointed only at 1% off course, almost an invisible adjustment when the plane's sitting on a tarmac in Los Angeles, it will ultimately end up about 150 miles off course, arriving either in upstate Albany or in Dover, Delaware. Such is the case for your habits. A single poor habit doesn't look like much in the moment, but it can ultimately lead you miles off course from the direction of your goals and your life and what you desire. Most people drift through life without devoting much conscious energy to figuring out specifically what they want and what they need to do to take themselves there. I want to show you how to ignite your passion and help you aim unstoppable creative power in the direction of your heart's dreams and desires. Uprooting bad habits that have grown into mighty oaks is going to be arduous and difficult. And to see the process through will require something greater than even the most relentless determination. Willpower alone won't cut it. And this is just a quick little visual of how a plane going from Los Angeles can end up totally off course if just one little degree was off course. Finding your mojo in here is your why power. Assuming willpower is what you need to change your habits is akin to trying to keep a hungry grizzly bear out of your picnic basket by covering it with a napkin. To fight the bear of your bad habits, you need something stronger. When you're having trouble doing the hard work of achieving your goals, it's common to believe you simply lack willpower. And I disagree. It's not enough to choose to be successful. What's going to keep you consistent with the new positive choices that you need to make? What's going to stop you from falling back into your mindless bad habits? What's going to be different this time versus the times that you've tried and failed before? And as soon as you get the slightest bit uncomfortable, you're going to be tempted to slide back into your old comfortable routine. You've tried willpower before and it's failed you. You've set resolutions and you've let them go. You thought you were going to lose all that weight last time. You thought you'd make all those sales calls last year. Let's stop the insanity and do something different so you can get different, better results. Forget about willpower. It's time for why power. Your choices are only meaningful when you connect them to your desires and dreams. The wisest and the most motivating choices are the ones aligned with that which you identify as your purpose, your core self, your highest values. You've got to want something and know why you want it, or you'll end up giving up too easily. So what is your why? You've got to have a reason. If you want to make significant improvements into your life and to make you want to make the necessary changes, your why must be something that is fantastically motivating to you. You've got to want to get up and go, 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 go for years. So what is that moves you the most? What is it? Identify your why. Identifying your why is critical. What motivates you is the ignition to your passion. What motivates you is your ignition. Wow. What motivates you is the ignition of your passion, the source of your enthusiasm, and the fuel of your persistence. That's a strong, strong, strong thing to understand there. This is so important, and it has made it the focus of another book, which is called Living Your Best Year Ever. You must know your why everything's possible. The power of your why is what gets you the power of your why is what gets you to stick through the grueling, mundane, and laborious. All the hows will be meaningless until your whys are powerful enough. Until you've set your desire and motivation in place, you'll abandon any new path you seek to better your life. If your why power, your desire, isn't great enough, if the fortitude of your commitment isn't powerful enough, you'll end up like every other person who makes a New Year's resolution and gives up too quickly and reverts to sleepwalking through poor choices. So let me give you an analogy to help bring it home. If I were to put a 10-inch wide, 30-foot long plank on the ground and say, if you walk the length of the plank, I'll give you $20. Would you do it? Of course, it's an easy $20. But what if I took that same plank and made it a rooftop bridge between two 100-story buildings? That same $20 for walking the 30-foot plank no longer looks desirable or even possible, does it? You'd look at me and say, not in your life. However, if your child was on the opposite building and the building was on fire, would you walk the length of the plank to save him or her? Without a question, and immediately you do it, $20 or not. And this is the example. That's a really, really strong point. So why is it that the first time that I asked you to cross the sky-high plank, you said no way, yet the second time that you wouldn't even hesitate? The risks and the dangers, they're the same. What changed? Well, your why changed. The reason for wanting to do it You see, when the reason is big enough, you will be willing to perform almost anyhow. To truly ignite your creative potential and inner drive, you have to look beyond the motivation of monetary and material goals. It's not that those motivations are bad. In fact, they're great. I'm a connoisseur of nice things, but material stuff can't really recruit your heart, soul, and guts into fight. That passion has to come from a deeper place. And even if you acquire the shiny objects, you won't capture the real prize, which is happiness and fulfillment. In my interview with peak performance expert Tony Robbins, he said, I have seen business moguls achieve their ultimate goals, but still live in frustration, worry, and fear. What's preventing these successful people from being happy? The answer is that they have only focused on their achievement and not the fulfillment. Extraordinary accomplishment does not guarantee extraordinary joy, happiness, love, and sense of meaning. These two skill sets feed off each other and make me believe that success without fulfillment is failure. Well said. That's why it's not enough to choose to be successful. You have to dig deeper That's the point here. You have to dig freaking deep to find your core motivation, to activate your superpower, your why power. I freaking love that so much. Your core motivation. The access point to your why power is through your core values, which define both who you are and what you stand for. Your core values are your internal compass, your guiding beacon, your personal GPS. They act as the filter through which you run all of your life demands, requests, temptations, making sure they're leading you toward your intended destination. Getting your core values defined and properly calibrated is one of the most important steps in redirecting your life towards your grandest vision. So let's get you calibrated. If you haven't already clearly defined your values, you may find yourself making choices that conflict with what you want. So for example, honesty is a big thing for you, but you hang out with liars. There's a conflict. When your actions conflict with your values, you'll end up unhappy, frustrated, and despondent. In fact, psychologists tell us nothing creates more stress than when our actions and behaviors aren't congruent with our values. Defining your core values also helps make life simpler and more efficient. Decision-making is also easier when you are certain of your core values. Once I went through the practice of figuring out my own core values and boiled it down to the top three: growth, excellence, and impact. Decision-making at both the macro and the micro level become more clear and purposeful. When faced with a choice, ask yourself, does this align with my core values? If it does, do it. If not, don't. And don't look back. All fretting and indecision are eliminated. To identify your core values, use the core values assessment worksheet that you can actually find at the compoundeffect.com/resources. This is how you find your fight, okay? Find your fight here. People are either motivated by something they want or something they don't. Love is a powerfully motivating force, but so is hate. Contrary to any social correctness, it can be good to hate. Hate disease, hate injustice, hate ignorance, hate complacency, and so on. Sometimes identifying an enemy lights your fire. Some of the greatest motivation, determination, and dogged persistence came when I had an enemy to fight. In history, the most transformational stories and political revolutions came about as a result of fighting an enemy. David and Goliath. America had the British, Luke had Darth Vader, Rocky had Apollo Creed, 20-somethings had The Man, Pepsi has Coke, DC has Marvel, Taylor Swift has Kanye West, and we could go on and on and on, but you get the point. Enemies give us a reason to stand tall with courage, and so do haters. Having to fight challenges Having to fight challenges your skills, your character, and your resolve. It forces you to assess and exercise your talents and abilities. And without a motivating fight, we can become fat and lazy. We lose our strength and our purpose. So some of my mentorship clients worry about why power derives from less than noble goals. They feel guilty for wanting to prove the naysayers wrong, or wanting to get back at a person who said they never amount to anything, or beat the competition, or finally one up a sibling who's always dominated them. But really, it doesn't matter what the motivation is, as long as it's a legal and moral one. You don't have to be motivated for great humanitarian reasons. What matters is that you feel fully motivated, and sometimes that motivation can help you use a powerfully negative emotion or experience to create an even more powerful and successful end. This is certainly true of one of history's most celebrated football coaches, Pete Carroll. Pete explained his early motivation to me like this: when I grew up, I was a little dink. I couldn't do much because I was just too small. It took me a couple of years to get in place and where I could actually be competitive. All the time I was living with the fact that I was much better and I needed to fight to prove it. I was frustrated because I knew I would be special. Carell's need to fight ultimately brought out his greatness. In an interview with acclaimed actor Anthony Hopkins, I was surprised to learn that his extraordinary talent and determination blossomed from anger. Hopkins admitted to being a horrible student, burdened by dyslexia and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder before such diagnosis existed. He was shackled with the label problem child. I was a source of worry for my parents, Hopkins revealed. I had no apparent future because schooling and education were important, but I didn't seem to have the ability to grasp what was being taught to me. My cousins were all brilliant. I felt resentful and rejected by a whole society and was very depressed. Hopkins harnessed his anger, and at first it propelled him to fight to achieve success outside of academics or athletics. He discovered he had a glimmer of talent in acting, so he used his anger towards the belittling labels he'd been giving to fuel his commitment to the craft of acting. And today, Hopkins is considered one of the greatest actors alive. And as a result of the fame and the fortune he's acquired, Hopkins has been able to help countless people in the fight to recover from substance abuse, and in addition to supporting important environmental work. Though initially it wasn't grounded in a noble cause, his fight was clearly worthwhile. We can all make powerful choices. We can all take back control by not blaming chance, fate, or anyone else for our outcomes. It's within our ability to change, to create change, rather than letting the past hurtful experience sap our energy and sabotage our success. We can use them to fuel positive and constructive change. Amazing. We're going to stop here and we're going to continue with goals in the next part of this amazing chapter, number 3. This is part 1 of chapter 3. Okay, part 1 of chapter 3. And I'm so excited because, I mean, you can tell like this book is all filled with, I mean, golden nuggets like left and right, but we went over habits. We talked about instant gratification and how it's actually not good to have that. And also finding your mojo, finding that inner strength, finding your why power. And then we talked about how we can actually use enemies to stand tall with courage. I mean, what a read with me, right? That was really, really powerful. I'm so excited for what's to come. I'm really excited to continue reading with you. And I'm so excited to, finish this book for the month of November, because in the month of December, we're going to be going into the Good to Great book by Jim Collins. It's going to be amazing. This amazing book has changed my life, and I hope it has changed yours. If you haven't gotten a copy yet, make sure to do so. It's invaluable. I'll see you in the next Read With Me session. Talk to you soon.